The most dangerous moment for any corrupt administration isn't when they're exposed. It's when they start contradicting their own lies. And folks, what Jasmine Crockett just revealed shows an administration that isn't just corrupt. They're terrified of what happens when America finally sees the truth. If you believe in holding the powerful accountable and protecting our democracy from those who would sell it to the highest bidder, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because we're just getting started exposing what they don't want you to see.
Since January, Donald Trump has used the full power of the federal government to attack Americans in cities across the country. In Donald Trump's America, you are at increased risk of experiencing militaristic operations in your home, increased risk of being subject to detainment by mass thugs and wannabe vigilantes, increased risk of suffering injuries due to reckless and illegal acts by rogue federal agents, increased risk of being deported to foreign nations even if you are an American citizen, and you're at an increased risk of being targeted by federal government for criticizing the president and his friends. Congressional Republicans have completely abandoned their Article I powers and have exchanged their responsibility to their constituents with fealty to the president. They have allowed the president to morph federal agencies into instruments of autocracy. And as a result, the president has been able to ignore federal law, disregard court orders, and implement the largest pay-for-play scheme in American history. The White House, well, what's left of it anyway, is literally up for sale. The federal courts have characterized this presidency as, quote, lawless. In fact, when ruling against illegal acts committed by the administration, a Republican-appointed federal judge stated, quote, the court cannot imagine how the public interest might be served by permitting federal officials to flaunt the very laws they have sworn to enforce. In a separate case where the administration was sued for unlawful acts, the judge, also a Republican appointee, stated, quote, allowing constitutional rights to be dependent upon the grace of the executive branch would be a dereliction of duty by this third and independent branch of government and would be against the public interest. But in another case, the court summed it up perfectly by declaring, quote, as is becoming far too common, we are confronted again with the efforts of the executive branch to set aside the rule of law in pursuit of its own goals. Judiciary Committee Republicans have been completely complicit in this corruption. But since they're so interested in restoring law and order, I have a couple of suggestions on where they can start. Number one, this is the President of the United States standing beside his best friend, Jeffrey Epstein. As we all know, Mr. Epstein is one of the most notorious sexual predators in American history. For 8 weeks, the Republicans on this committee have chosen to protect these two men instead of providing justice to Mr. Epstein's victims. Now the administration is panicking. First, they campaigned on releasing the Epstein files. Then AG Bondi and Associates did a photo op with the files. And she said, and I quote, the Epstein list is on my desk. Then somehow the Epstein list didn't exist. Then the Epstein files became a Democratic hoax. Now the president is supposedly supportive of releasing the files, even though he's currently ignoring a congressional subpoena to do so. Now the president is simply crashing out. And it's because he can't seem to explain his special decades-long relationship with one of the most prominent sexual predators in American history. It's already public that he's in the Epstein files, but his administration is hiding the context of his involvement, if any, with Mr. Epstein's horrific crimes. Now, this is Miss Ghislaine Maxwell. Miss Maxwell, who obviously helped Jeffrey Epstein traffic more than 1,000 women and girls. Well, Donald Trump is now giving her special treatment while she's serving out her prison sentence. He won't even rule out giving her a pardon or commuting her sentence. I don't need to explain why pardoning sex traffickers wouldn't be restoring law and order. Now, this is Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem. Not only has Secretary Noem been busy filming propaganda ads, she's also been busy cashing in on millions of taxpayer dollars. In fact, Secretary Noem has funneled millions of dollars to a company called the Strategy Group. The Strategy Group helped Secretary Noem win her campaign to become the governor of South Dakota. Corey Lewandowski, her top policy advisor, has worked with the firm. And the company's CEO is married to Secretary Noem's chief spokesperson, Mrs. Tricia McLaughlin. This is what corruption looks like. They're stealing money from the American people's pockets and depositing it into their bank accounts. Now we move on to yet somebody else. This is the so-called border czar, Tom Homan. Mr. Homan is on tape accepting $50,000 in cash bribes stuffed in a brown paper bag from an undercover FBI agent. Apparently, Mr. Homan accepted these bribes in exchange for awarding federal contracts to his friends. Trump's Department of Justice killed the investigation into Mr. Homan's crimes, and congressional Republicans didn't say a mumbling word. Lastly, this is insurrectionist and Nazi sympathizer Ed Martin. It appears that Mr. Martin is functioning as the Associate Deputy Attorney General, Pardon Attorney, Director of the Fake Weaponization Working Group, and Special Attorney for Mortgage Fraud. All that means is that Mr. Martin is Trump's lapdog, whom the president sends to initiate lawsuits against the president's perceived political opponents. This is what we call organized crime. They're breaking the law, often by stealing taxpayer dollars, covering up their crimes by ending and obstructing investigations, then prosecuting people who call out their unlawful behavior. And while the Republicans are encouraging this corruption, they're abandoning actual victims of violent crime and ignoring the Republican-led state's 21st century murder crisis. In September's appropriation markup, congressional Republicans proposed reducing the FBI staff by thousands of positions and underfunding the agency by more than $1 billion. They've proposed slashing resources from the ATF. They've proposed cutting grants for juvenile justice programs and hate crimes and eliminating the community violence intervention and prevention grants. They're literally defunding the police. So no matter what they say at today's hearing, congressional Republicans have proven that they are not investing in keeping American communities safe from violent crime.
Now, I just watched Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett's speech, and let me tell you something, this wasn't just another political moment. This was a patriot standing up in Congress and saying what millions of Americans have been thinking, but what cowardly politicians have been too afraid to say. The Trump administration isn't just hiding something in those Epstein files, they're protecting someone. And when you look at the timeline, the contradictions, the panic, it becomes crystal clear who that someone is. Think about this for a second. They campaigned on transparency. They promised to release these files. Bondi literally did a photo op saying, "The Epstein list is on my desk." Then suddenly, mysteriously, these files don't exist. Then they're a Democratic hoax. Then Trump supports releasing them while simultaneously blocking a congressional subpoena demanding those exact files. You know what that is? That's not confusion. That's consciousness of guilt. That's what happens when powerful people realize their protection racket is falling apart. And here's what really gets me as someone who loves this country. We're watching the complete abandonment of American values in real time. When Crockett pointed out that federal courts, with Republican-appointed judges no less, are calling this administration lawless, that should send chills down every American's spine. These aren't partisan hacks. These are conservative judges saying the executive branch is flouting the very laws they swore to uphold. But let's dig deeper into what Crockett exposed, because the Epstein files are just the tip of this corruption iceberg. When she laid out how Kristi Noem is funneling millions of taxpayer dollars to her political cronies, that's your money. That's money that should be going to securing our borders, protecting our communities, helping working families. Instead, it's lining the pockets of political consultants and campaign buddies. That's not just corruption, that's theft from the American people. And Tom Homan? The so-called border are caught on tape accepting $50,000 in cash bribes? The FBI had him dead to rights, and what happened? Trump's DOJ killed the investigation. They didn't dispute the evidence. They didn't claim innocence. They just made it go away. In any functioning democracy, that would be the scandal of the decade. But in Trump's America, it's just Tuesday. You want to know why they're really panicking about the Epstein files? Because once those documents come out, every photo, every flight log entry, every documented interaction takes on new meaning. We're not talking about casual acquaintances here. We're talking about what Trump himself called a terrific guy who likes beautiful women as much as I do, many of them on the younger side. Those aren't my words. Those are Donald Trump's words about Jeffrey Epstein. And now we have an administration that won't even rule out pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell, a convicted sex trafficker. Let that sink in. While they're screaming about law and order, while they're claiming to protect children, they're considering clemency for someone who helped traffic over 1,000 women and girls. That's not just hypocrisy. That's complicity. Here's what really burns me up as a patriot who actually believes in this country's ideals. Congressional Republicans have completely abdicated their constitutional duty. The founders created 3 co-equal branches of government for a reason, to prevent exactly this kind of abuse of power. But these Republicans have turned Congress into a rubber stamp for executive corruption. They've betrayed their oath, they've betrayed their constituents, and they've betrayed America. And while they're protecting sex traffickers and taking bribes, you know what they're actually doing? They're defunding law enforcement. Crockett laid it out perfectly. They're cutting FBI positions, slashing ATF resources, eliminating violence prevention grants. They're literally making America less safe while claiming to be the party of law and order. That's not just lying. That's putting American lives at risk for political theater. But here's where I see hope. When someone like Jasmine Crockett stands up and connects all these dots publicly, when she puts it all on the congressional record, it becomes impossible to ignore. The contradictions are too glaring. The corruption is too obvious. The panic is too visible. We're at a crossroads, America. We can either demand accountability, demand those files be released, demand justice for survivors, and demand that no one is above the law, or we can let them continue this charade while they rob us blind and protect predators. I know which side I'm on. I'm on the side of the survivors who deserve justice. I'm on the side of taxpayers who deserve honest government. I'm on the side of the Constitution that says we're all equal under the law. And I'm on the side of the America that can and must do better. The administration knows what's in those files. They know what it means when it all comes out. And they know their time is running out. That's not speculation. That's what their panic tells us. So, here's my challenge to you, fellow patriots. Share this video. Contact your representatives. Demand transparency. Because in a democracy, the ultimate power doesn't rest with presidents or congressmen. It rests with we the people. And it's time we used it. This is about more than Trump. This is about whether America still stands for justice, truth, and accountability. I believe it does. I believe we do. Now let's prove it. Stay loud, stay proud, and keep fighting for the America we deserve.